Hello, everyone, and welcome back to New Jersey's first ever Trails and Greenways Summit. Before we get started, please note that this session is being recorded, and after the summit, the recordings of this and all the other sessions will be made available online. This is the third session today titled Transforming Towns Through Trails. In this session, you will learn how trails around the country have revitalized communities and improved economies from small towns to big cities. You will hear about New Jersey's trail towns, the role of advocacy in building community-wide support and getting projects off the ground, and how trails can make an impact through tourism. I hope you join us for the closing keynote session following this and participate in all the post-event activities we have lined up for you, including joining the New Jersey Trails Action Network. With that said, I will now turn it over to our moderator, Mike Dannemiller.
Hello, everybody, and welcome, and thank you for sticking with us throughout these 2 days. I feel like we're batting cleanup just a little bit. I've got the privilege of working with such a great crew to talk about how towns really are being transformed through trails. A little bit about myself. I am a principal engineer at NV5. We're a full service architecture, engineering, and planning firm. And we're going to talk a little bit about how, through our leadership from our planning director, Tina Zimney, we're going to show how trails can be a catalyst for local economic growth and recovery. This ranges from our routing of several projects. Next slide, please. So I hope that we're going to work this out and go ahead. I had placeholders at the beginning, and that you've already heard from Brandy, and there's myself and our crew. I'll introduce everybody in just a moment. Okay, so I'll go through everybody that we're going to hear from. Elizabeth Dragon from NJDEP is the Assistant Commissioner at DEP. She's going to talk to us about connection between economy and the environment and some of DEP's new programs. After that, we're going to go from state level to, we'll start at local, and Mayor Jonathan Bush from Hudson, the Brainy Borough, is going to talk to us not just about the Middlesex Greenway itself, but how it has a destination effect and how it's really serving as a pedestrian highway through the community. Sort of like driving Route 66, you can walk the Middlesex Greenway. There were some great anecdotes there. Then from local, we're going to go up to county. We're going to hear from Leslie Gimeno from Cape May. She is the Cape May County Director of Planning, and she's going to tell us about the impact of trails in the county, really the story of the Cape May County Trail System, with a gradual growth from small projects to a county-wide network. So I think it'd be really inspired by all the good things Cape May County's got going on. And from there, we'll jump back up to the state level. I think many of you know Deb Kagan, New Jersey Bike Walk Executive Director, and sure, she's going to focus on Essex Hudson Greenway and all that it's going to bring, but really that serves as a model about the role of advocacy, the building of partnerships over many years, and the general community outreach. And that really demonstrates the connection between health, economic, and environmental benefits. And then to capstone that, to bookend it, we're back to the state level, state national tourism. Anthony Minnick from New Jersey Division of Travel and Tourism. He's going to bring it all home and tie that together with a focus on spreading the awareness of what resources are available for trails and bike riding, building on marketing that the state's already doing, and making connections between investment being made in infrastructure and business decisions. So my take on all of this, before we jump into our presenters, we go to the next slide. I come to this from a perspective of, I've had the luxury and the honor of doing some really large scale trail planning across New Jersey. Back in '04, Annette Schultz and I, we did East Coast Greenway for New Jersey DOT. We brought in experts from across the state. We did lots of outreach, and we figured out more than just the DNR Canal from Trenton to New Brunswick. How do you get the rest of the East Coast Greenway across New Jersey? And from that, we've built and piggybacked on how that could be a huge element of the September 11th National Memorial Trail. The leg between Ground Zero in New York and the Pentagon, hey, it's largely going to use East Coast Greenway, but we'll also connect out to Shanksville, the crash site from Flight 93, both from the Pentagon and from New York City. And when doing that, what we're doing, we're connecting memorials, we're connecting towns. Some people would look at it as we're connecting fire stations. These are things that will connect, give an idea for the Blue Knights and the Red Knights to go for, sure, a motorcycle ride. But as we develop these into trails, people will be able to go for a stroll with their family or go for a bike ride on a family-friendly facility across these huge facilities. Next slide. And everybody's been hearing so much about the circuit today. A lot of my personal time I spend up in North Jersey, and bonus points for anyone who can enter into the chat or into the Q&A, how you actually pronounce this acronym. But the North Jersey Urban Trail Network is the northern sister to the circuit. And it's developing, and it's going to be great. It's going to tie together towns, and really transforming towns through trails is what moves all of this together. If you want a blueprint for how to do that, next slide. The publication that New Jersey DOT put together with Together North Jersey. We helped with some of the desktop publishing and herding the cats, pulling all these thoughts together and getting it bound into one document. This was a lot of fun to work on, but it's a great resource. I want to get that into the chat. I hope somebody can help me with that, because for some reason I'm having technical difficulty. Oh, I can do a quick switch and go like this. Okay. Anyway, I'll make sure that's in there in just a minute. And with that, I'm going to hand this off to our action-packed state, local, county, and state presentation about transforming towns through trails. And let's hand it off to Elizabeth.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mike and Brandy, and the rest of the team working in the background to pull this panel together. You have made this 2021 New Jersey Trails and Greenway Summit a great experience for me, and I'm sure that I'm speaking for the rest of the panelists here today. I'm so happy to be here. At DEP, we are very interested in the potential for trail networks with the state to act as transportation routes and connectivity for our business sector. I was asked to speak today because of a newly formed and expanding office called the Community and Economic Development. I am honored to be leading this new office that links the environment with our New Jersey communities and economy. Next slide. So often in the environmental field, there is a false choice presented between conservation protection and economic development. And much like we've experienced through this pandemic, in that the public health is economic health. So protecting our environment protects our economy. Environmental protection and resilience need not come at the cost of our economic future, but instead builds the groundwork for sustainable economic growth within our communities. The new Office of Community and Economic Development aims to coalesce efforts underway across the department and other agencies to improve the intersection of the economic, social, and environmental systems within our New Jersey communities. In doing so, we are hoping to facilitate environmental improvement and responsible economic growth. Connecting our policies with how we invest demonstrates our commitment to New Jersey's community, economy, and the environment. So this office will assist in the department decisions that implement strategies and policies for handling different projects and funding, and will finesse and establish the criteria and mechanisms for the department's priorities, such as reducing and responding to climate change, protecting New Jersey's water, revitalizing and protecting public health in our communities, and mandating and promoting thriving natural historic resources. Specific to trails, when we talk about the benefits of trails, we are talking similarly about economic vitality, either through local business strength or property value opportunities, quality of life impacts, healthy activities, providing low-cost family activities, and the environmental benefits of creating a space that has a limited environmental footprint compared to our typical routes of transportation. Next slide. So, as with most things, planning for your desired outcome plays an important role in trail development and maintenance. I have included on this side a couple of examples that I'm sure that many of you are aware of in New Jersey, and some others that connect with points of interest in our communities. And I bet that many of you can think of trails that connect multiple locations, and each of those different parts of the trail, each having their own identity. You know, and I think we're also going to talk about some destinations for tourism. I myself like to partake in checking out other states and other areas of the country. So we want to bring them here to New Jersey as well to check out our trail destinations. There are numerous studies that can provide the positive economics around trail growth. However, having inclusivity into your planning process will better inform a trail's focus and how the community can best interact with the environment. A trail alone cannot drive economic vitality, but fostering better inclusivity will bring connectivity between all of our communities. To create a trail that connects all communities with the environment and economy, I recommend conversations between the government bodies, the businesses, social associations, and residents to address inclusion to features that address all demographics, maintenance, resources, ownership, and other trail programming and trail highlights. Next slide. So through the establishment of this office, our deep and continuing commitment to protecting New Jersey's environment and public health while facilitating new investments in environmental infrastructure will help hasten our economic recovery and promote growth is one of the areas we're exploring. So this includes how to support our recognition that the economic contributions that outdoor recreation provides to our New Jersey communities by connecting people from their home with points of interest, local businesses, recreation, and their employment. We are supporting a healthy environment, vibrant environment, economy, and quality of life. Because of the environmental challenges that we face, we can create opportunity for all of our residents, sow equity and do justice, promote and create new industries and jobs that come with them. We can deliver broadly shared prosperity. Investments in environmental infrastructure and climate resilience will help us meet the moment and protect and promote public good. Transforming towns through trails may need multiple pots of contributions to attract businesses and lend support to those in need. As part of my role in this new office, Community and Economic Development, I sit on the board of the Economic Development Authority for Commissioner LaTourette, and would like to share how those state funds can be valuable to our small businesses. Next slide. So for more information than I discuss here or that you see on the slide, please, I encourage you to reach out to EDA. Also, check out the panel on finding the money. And yesterday, Brandy Chapman spoke on the department's economic opportunities for trails. So in their commitment to inclusive and sustainable economic development, strong dynamic communities, good job creation, and providing pathways to a stronger and fairer New Jersey, EDA currently has small business services programs with the services listed on the slide. I will point out that through the direct loans, the New Jersey businesses in need of financing and commitment to job creation may be eligible for direct loans when conventional financing is not available for up to $2 million. When a business commits to creation or retention of one full-time job for every $65,000 of NJEDA exposure within 2 years. I'll also go down a couple of points and note that through the Small Business Bonding Readiness Assistance Program, which is designed to help construction business needs for small minority, women, veteran-owned construction firms in the areas of bonding insurance, community outreach, capital management, compliance and monitoring, and back office services that and construction management. So next to my next holding hands, we would also like to recognize the Economic Recovery Act, which was signed in January of 2021, which creates a package of programs that includes tax incentives to incentivize job creation, new construction and revitalization for brownfields and historic properties, financial resources for small businesses, support for our new supermarkets and healthy food retailers and food deserts communities, new funding opportunities for early stage companies in New Jersey, and supporting of the growing film and digital media industry. So within this act, the Main Street Recovery Program is a 100 million small business support program that will fund multiple financial assistance products aimed at supporting the growth and success of small businesses in New Jersey, which I'm sure could definitely help out in this particular arena when we're looking at bringing other folks in. The first of several programs will launch on October 20th under the Main Street Recovery Program through open applications for small business lease grants. This is a $10 million pilot program that will help revitalize downtowns, main streets by offsetting a portion of the costs associated with businesses and nonprofits seeking street level space. So, and that ends my presentation. Thank you for listening. I'd like to turn it over now to Mayor Bush.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can see me and hear me. It's taken us somehow still a year and a half to figure out how to deal with this Zoom technology. I'm Jonathan Bush. I'm the mayor of the borough of Metuchen. As was referred to earlier by Mike, it is the Brainy Borough. And of course, the Brainy Borough, got its name from the fact that everyone in our borough is just so incredibly smart. No, but really, we got our name from a contest that occurred in 1914, 1915, between two newspapers that were competing for who had the smartest town. Apparently, the owner or the editor of the Metuchen Recorder, which was our local newspaper at the time, it hasn't been in place since the 1980s, and the Independent Press, which was I think out of Bloomfield, got together on a train, because everybody took trains these days, and that'll be relevant in a second when I start really talking about these trails. And they got together and they decided on this kind of faux contest, and somehow we won, and we've been the Brainy Borough ever since. So anyway, it's great that there's so many people interested in this first ever seminar on this topic. We have, we're really fortunate in Metuchen, in the Brainy Borough, because of course we have tremendous walkability. Now, that's not necessarily the case in all of Middlesex County. Middlesex County, some of you are from Middlesex County, some of you live in Middlesex County, but Middlesex County is a densely populated community with lots of highways, right? We've got Route 1, we've got Route 27, lots of state and significant traffic, county highways as well. And it's really hard for us to picture, I would say going back to the last 50 or so years, it's been really hard for us to picture ourselves as a walkable community. And we've had to transform our thought process. And these culture shifts are incredibly difficult. But slowly, we've been advancing the ball. And I've only been mayor for 3.5 years. We've had many people before me and council members before me who've worked really hard. As you know, these things don't change overnight. But Metuchen was one of the real impetuses, if you will, of our development as a walkable town, was this trail, which was, an abandoned train line. So the Lehigh Valley line runs right through Metuchen. Is there a slide that has that there? You want to move ahead, Mike, just so we can, sorry. Yeah, all right, so the Lehigh, we go back one slide actually, if you don't mind. So the Lehigh Valley line runs right through the Brainy Borough, or ran right through the Brainy Borough. It was built in the 1870s, 1880s, and we've had this abandoned rail line through town. And by the way, it's still there in parts, but the part that has been completed is now known as the entrance to the Middlesex Greenway, which was completed probably about 10 or 15 started about 10 or 15 years ago, and about 10 years ago it was probably completed, and it has become an incredible destination. We've got an incredible amount of, it's really like a highway through town. And Mike mentioned the Route 66 analogy, and I'm just going to kind of go there a little further just because I think it helps people understand. Route 66 died over time because, the only way west became inefficient. Cars filled it up. We also had, tons of cry for doing things better and faster, and these highways sort of replaced these downtowns, these small communities. And this summer I had a chance to travel out there, and in some ways the Middlesex Greenway has replaced has sort of brought Route 66 to us. In other words, it's the opposite effect of what we've seen in terms of highways replacing the opportunity for destination travel. But it's not obviously with vehicles; it's with bikes, as this man is riding his, and it's with cars. And not with cars, with pedestrians. And so what we've been trying to do here is take full advantage of this to create this destination effect. And let me tell you something, without even advertising this, we've got, hundreds, if not thousands of people who on weekend days come to Metuchen just for the entrance to the Greenway. In fact, they park kind of wherever they want along this open space that the county has preserved for us. And they just, they'll have their bikes, either their bike there or they'll have their bike on their car. So they'll drive to this place just to go through it. It's created, I guess we can go now to the next slide here. It's created quite an effect. And what it's doing is it's allowing people to come into our town and then hang out while they're there. It's had a pretty significant development on some of our construction that we've been able to put together. And some of these developments, we've had a number of Metuchen has obviously extraordinary residential character, but we've had an industrial past as well that we can't discount. I mean, you look at some of the maps, the zoning maps from the 1950s, we've got large swaths of land just off the train line. Makes sense, right? Because in addition to Lehigh Valley, there were commercial trains that would come through delivering supplies to these factories and everything else. But these factories and these properties have trouble, right? In many cases, they're soil contamination, they are abandoned, they're very expensive to either tear down or build something new. But what this has done, it has brought our Greenway has created an attraction for developers to come in and build sort of the Metuchen of the future. And so, what was really clear was the construction of our Whole Foods, which was right at the base of the Greenway, and right next to the area where everyone was parking. There's a Whole Foods, and you regularly see people on weekend mornings grabbing their coffee, checking out the area that the Whole Foods is in, and on their way to the trail or at the end of their trip, getting some food. And it's incredible to me about how dedicated people are to this Greenway. During the pandemic, we had to close down the Greenway because all county parks were closed, and that included this. And I was blown away as mayor about how upset people were that they didn't have their place to walk. I reminded them that even in our 2.7 square mile town, we have about 50 plus miles of streets to walk through. You can, many of them are very walkable with sidewalks, and there's lots of opportunities for people to ride their bikes still, but they wanted their Greenway. They wanted their highway so they can go from one place to another. In some cases, they want to run. In some cases, they want to use their stroller. In some cases, maybe they're in their wheelchair. But the most important thing was that they had this highway, and the transformation has had a significant impact on our town. I mentioned two areas in our community that in particular are being impacted right now as we speak with respect to future development and the impact it's had. Number one, we've had a huge impact, for example, on the former Oakite industry property. So I referred to the industry properties. Oakite is a property that lies along the Greenway, but not the developed part, the part that Conrail still has not yet released to the county. And that takes some time. For those of you who know what it's like to deal with a utility or a railroad company like Conrail. But once they do release that, and hopefully within our lifetime it will happen, it's going to have a significant effect on what's there. And so the prospective opportunity to have a development at Oakite that is marketed and is used to be along, could use to be along the Greenway is a huge lure for some of these developers. So in particular, we just adopted at the meeting before last a redevelopment plan for the former Oakite site that includes two senior developments that I think are incredible, will have some use with the Greenway. Number one, we're going to have some independent living, and I think the importance of accessibility, of ADA compliance, of senior access to trails, as the reliance of residents on trails for access to green space is a significant lure, like I've said. And this memory care unit obviously will have to be careful with their residents and not just allowing anyone to just leave and go wherever they want, but they'll have aides, and we expect that those residents will be using our green space, and that's just tremendous, and a great way for these people to have some quality of life while they're living in a memory care facility. The other one is sort of, we're not quite there yet in figuring out exactly what we're going to do, but it's the Galton site. Like the Oakite site, Galton has had years of environmental cleanup. Lots of money put into environmental cleanup because it was an old battery factory and they were literally washing off the concrete, the chemicals and whatever else that they used to use into the woods. So we've had to deal with that. And the impact of the railroad is great, but it also has had a lasting effect in its industrial legacy. And so what we've had to do is we've had to work with developers to say, look, we've got an opportunity here to build something just off of this highway that creates a dynamic that is really, really rare. Metuchen is, here's the mayor telling you how great his town is, but if you look at our town on a Google Earth, you'll see it's really, really densely populated. We don't have a lot of space in our yards. Our neighbors are kind of on top of each other. We tend to, live this way and love it because we're a very connected community. But, there would be really, really great. It'd be really, really great if there was an opportunity, obviously, for some green space. Well, lo and behold, there's a huge amount of green space. It had some contamination. It's being cleaned up, but that green space is ultimately what was known as the Dismal Swamp, which is not everybody's favorite name. But Governor Murphy 2 months ago just signed legislation saying that this is now called the Peter J. Barnes Swamp, named after former Senator and Judge Barnes. Excuse me, not swamp, preserve. So it's now the Barnes Preserve, and we plan on whatever development we end up agreeing on for Galton. We plan on incorporating a grand entrance to the Barnes Preserve. So we hope you come visit Metuchen. We hope you have similar kinds of opportunities that we've had with something like the Lehigh Valley line running through. And we appreciate your interest in the way that we have utilized this incredible resource. So thank you for having me today. And I would like to introduce, are we gonna do a video first, Mike? No? Okay. We're gonna introduce.
We're just gonna transition.
Okay, we're gonna transition to Leslie from Cape May Trails. Take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can see and hear me here. Thank you for this opportunity to tell the story of Cape May County and our partnerships that have built our regional trail system. So if you could please advance to the slides, that would be great. So just as an intro, we work with a number of partners in developing the trail system over time. This is just a quick photo of one of our workshops that we have where we engage our partners and sort of throw maps and give everybody a marker and tell them to mark things up and start planning some trails. So this is really how we do things here in the county. Next slide, please. So for those of you who aren't terribly familiar with Cape May County, obviously we're the southernmost county in the state. We're a peninsula. We have almost 50% of our housing units are vacant for seasonal use only. The majority of those are on our barrier islands, which you can see on the right. There's a big difference between land use patterns on the barrier islands, very densely populated on the eastern side, and then our mainland area, which has centers-based development and also is the home to our regional trail system. We have a $6.3 billion seasonal tourism industry. We get about 10 million visitors a year. So we really feel as if the development of our trail system is something that is a true asset, not only to our residents, about 92,000 residents, but also our summer population and our visitors. Next slide, please. So why do bike paths make sense in Cape May County? Well, in the Barrier Islands, very densely populated, low speed limits, very walkable, but at the same time, traffic and parking are very problematic. So our Barrier Island communities over time have developed bike lane systems, as there's not really an opportunity for bike paths. But the bike lanes help people get around, stay out of their cars, and still get to different areas in their communities. The mainland area is the spine of the county. That's really the opportunity for us to develop more of the regional off-road path system. We have the good fortune of being partners with Atlantic City Electric, and they allow us and our municipal partners to build a separated bicycle path system on the utility right-of-way, which is fantastic. So next slide, please. So themes of my presentation are perseverance and patience. So our bike path system in the county started with some projects in the lower portion. The yellow line on the map there shows Ferry Road, which the Delaware River and Bay Authority was able to, in the early 1990s, take advantage of some DOT funding to put bike lanes in there. And then the county had decided that it wanted to help try to build a system from this single lane facility that started. And we started incorporating bike and pedestrian accommodations in roadway projects. So the green line on the screen is Seashore Road, where we did a resurfacing project and then ended up including some bike lanes. Next slide, please. So building off of that, so initially, the early efforts were to connect community assets. So the ferry terminal to the schools, local elementary schools, the elementary schools to borough facilities, libraries. So, little by little, we started building portions of the trail. And with the funding coming largely from the NJ DOT when they had the ICE-T program or the T21 transportation enhancements. We were able and fortunate enough to get into those competitive funding programs and be successful in pulling some money towards Cape May County to start this initial sort of kernel of the regional system. Next slide, please. Similarly, up in Middle Township, there's a township recreation facility, the Cape May County Park and Zoo, the Cape May County branch of the Atlantic Cape Community College that was connected through one grant program. And then again, using DOT funding, we stretched that down into the downtown area of Cape May Courthouse. So, building blocks, piece and piece, one piece at a time to try to get to, more regional look. Next slide, please. So again, this is just another example of using DOT funding to extend the trail. Again, next slide, please. And then completing the link, as you see, this is, the portions at the bottom of the screen where there's initial couple of projects by the DRBA and the county. And then building on that with the municipal partnerships, we were able to get this portion of the trail connected. What I would say the major game changer for this is that when the state funds became more competitive and harder to get, our Open Spaces program, which is a dedicated trust fund that was established in 1989, we started funding improvements for bicycle and pedestrian facilities. So now instead of having to be on the state timeline for their grants and their programs, we were able to sort of be more self-sufficient with funding bicycle related facilities and continue the expansion of the trail network. Next slide, please. So back in April of 2016, in a rare occurrence, we have 16 municipalities in Cape May County, and all 16 of them came to one of our workshops, where again, we threw maps on the table, visuals, and just had everybody, mark up the maps and generate a wish list of projects that they would like to see in building this regional trail system. We had a number of other partners, Rails to Trails, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, which has a large number of land holdings, Delaware River and Bay Authority. SJTPO is a very strong partner of ours, is the MPO in our region, really very dedicated to helping us and our other MPO counties expand the networks. So it was really a very rewarding exercise that's proven to be a great guide as we move forward. Next slide, please. So again, open spaces, we have made the development of a regional trail system one of our program priorities. And as you see, this is pretty much the visual on the right-hand side of the screen shows where we are today, the green being existing bicycle and pedestrian facilities. So you can see that that spine trail has really grown. There's a couple of missing links right dead center in the screen, the yellow line there. That is the Cape May County Park Zoo north to the Dennis Township line. That will be under construction very shortly. And then another brief sort of on the curve of the line there between Dennis Township and the borough of Woodbine. That's Dennis Township Phase 2, and we're in the planning phases of working with the township and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to get the plans together for that. Obviously, a lot more work to be done, but really a very solid and strong, 20+ year effort here finally coming into fruition. I will add that the Garden State Parkway up in the top right of that map, the Garden State Parkway has put multi-use path on the side of the newly constructed southbound bridge. So there's connectivity into Atlantic County and the trail system there. We also have the Delaware River and Bay Authority has welcomed with open arms bicycle pedestrian travel on their ferry system, and they have miles and miles of trails on the Delaware side. I will add that we do have a program, a project program through SJTPO to look at that sort of the gap in the Upper Township area there to make more green lines and do a better job of connecting the northern Atlantic coast part of the county into the main trail system. So looking forward to getting started on that project in the near future. Next slide. So to help tie everything together, we launched a creative placemaking initiative where we had a consultant team of Designing Local and MKSK came in and created the Cape May County Creative Placemaking Plan. It's a program priority again for our open spaces program. I don't know if I mentioned that program brings in about $5 million each year through a dedicated tax. And so we're able to help fund these projects and get a common theme and a high level of aesthetic for all of the projects that we bring. Next slide. And very soon, ongoing collaborative efforts with the partners, we're going to be working on a wayfinding system for the regional bike path. So having people, users of the path, not only have a sense of where they are for orientation purposes and navigation purposes, but also a classification system to have them have a better understanding of what type of experience they can expect to have on a trail system, whether it's a shared lane, bike path that's separated, and those types of things to help people really enjoy themselves. And I don't know if I have one more slide. Nope, that was it. Okay, so with that, thank you for the opportunity to tell our story, and I'm going to turn it over to Deborah.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Leslie. If you can see in my background, you may recognize this trail. I was recently visiting Cape May, and this is a trail from the Cape May State Park. So this is a great transition. And I think I'm going to pick up on your theme of patience and perseverance to talk today about the Essex Hudson Greenway. Next. So the Essex Hudson Greenway is a proposed project to transform the unused old Booton line in northern New Jersey into a greenway for recreation, transportation, and health. Next. This project will be transformative for us, bringing a wide range of benefits to the region. The proposed Greenway is an 8.6-mile shared path trail through two of the most densely populated counties in the country, Essex and Hudson, and connects 8 municipalities between Montclair and Jersey City, including New Jersey's largest cities and a long stretch over the Meadowlands. Next. The lead partners in the team that's trying to bring this Greenway to fruition is the Open Space Institute, which is heading up the transaction to acquire the right-of-way. The 9/11 National Memorial Trail, which helped facilitate the dialogue with Norfolk Southern Railroad, which is the current owner, and the New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition, of which I'm the executive director, leading the advocacy and community outreach for the project. Next. I'm just going to do a real brief history of the project. So it's been starting about 20 years ago when service was stopped along the rail line. Local advocates from municipalities along the rail line have been working towards converting the unused space to a greenway. In 2014, the New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition took on the project as a major campaign. And throughout this period, the railroad just wasn't interested in selling the property. And then around 2017, after help from the 9/11 National Memorial Trail group, they expressed an interest. And at that point, we reached out. Sorry, we've got a new slide up there. To negotiate the acquisition in 2020, Open Space Institute signed a preliminary purchase and sale agreement with the railroad. Sorry, I have lost the video for some reason. Don't know why that is. Hold on one sec, everybody. Sorry. There we go. Sorry about that. So for the past 18 months, we have implemented an intensive advocacy campaign that has been critical in bringing us very close to making this Greenway a reality. And we are now actively working with the state to help find a solution to acquire the rail line before the agreement ends, which is in January of 2022, at which point the railroad could sell the rail line in pieces to private developers, ending the possibility of having this Greenway. Next. The benefits that have really struck a note with communities and government leaders kind of fall into several categories which overlap. So each one has an economic, an equitable mobility, and an environmental justice impact. And they are, as you can see here, transportation and connectivity, health and healthy communities, economic development, the environment, and green infrastructure. Next. So one of the most important lessons we've learned has been the pivotal role advocacy has played in moving this project forward, using really a wide range of benefits to build a very broad coalition of support. Here are some of the results from our community engagement. We've had over 8,000 letters of support in the last year sent to county and state officials. 110 organizations have signed on in support. Both counties, Essex and Hudson, and 7 towns and cities have signed resolutions, multiple resolutions in some cases of support. And we have a long list of support from mayors, council members, county and state leaders. And this has been a critical element in moving the project forward to where we are today, close to seeing this project come to fruition. Next. So let's talk about transportation first. This Greenway will provide safe walking and biking commuting options for over 300,000 commuters in the area. And providing a safe transportation network is really of critical importance in New Jersey, where 34% of traffic fatalities last year were people walking or biking. Now, many people living along this corridor don't own cars, and providing safe, active transportation gives people more affordable and equitable mobility options. So this, you can see here, this is an illustration of the proposed crossing of the Passaic River. And many local towns and councilors, bike and ped advocates, and bike clubs really responded to these mobility, safety mobility options, as well as organizations like the Brain Injury Alliance of New Jersey and New Jersey Families for Safe Streets. Next. You can see on this map the regional connectivity it would provide, not only between the local towns and two major cities, but also connecting to existing trails in the region. It is the preferred route by the East Coast Greenway and the 9/11 Memorial Trail, and connects to the Morris Canal and just many other trails, the Lenape Trail, the Hackensack River Walkway, etc. So regional trail organizations, including Rails to Trails, have also been important supporting partners, amplifying our outreach. And you can see sort of here how the Greenway could be the spine for a North Jersey urban trail network that Mike was talking about in the introduction. Next. So providing alternatives to vehicle-based transportation has a direct effect on our personal health and the health of our communities, and especially in communities of color and low-income communities that bear the brunt of environmental injustice. It can help to reduce air pollution from vehicle emissions, which is a major contributor to asthma. And in Newark alone, 1 in 4 children has asthma, which is 3 times the national average. So discussing these health benefits got support from organizations like the Hope and Esperanza Community Health Center and the Hudson County Latino Foundation. And in this illustration, this is an area on the Greenway in Newark where currently there's just asphalt pavement and overgrown tracks. So this would be a whole new park space for Newark. Next, please. So throughout the pandemic, we have experienced the importance of safe outdoor spaces to exercise, to walk, to bike, to run. And Mayor Bush talked about this for Metuchen, and to safely gather together. This is all for both our physical and for our mental health. So a lack of this open space is a major contributor to different health issues. And one of those is obesity, which is a growing health crisis in New Jersey, where more than 1 in 4 New Jerseyans are obese. So the Essex Hudson Greenway would actually provide 135 acres of new green space in this incredibly dense area where there just isn't a lot of new opportunities to have open space. This is an illustration of the Greenway across the Meadowlands. And here you can see how it would provide new access to this beautiful nature piece, which is really actually hard to get to, and also extends recreation. You can see people kayaking here and fishing and gathering, as well as biking and walking. Next, please. So the Greenway offers transportation without cars, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and vehicle miles traveled in a heavily congested transportation corridor that can help us reach the New Jersey DEP goal of 80% reduction of greenhouse gases by 2050. It also provides an opportunity for habitat restoration, and it's continuous, so it can be a continuous wildlife corridor as well. And there are major opportunities for green infrastructure to mitigate flooding along the entire corridor, like bioswales and rain gardens, as well as reducing the deadly health effects of heat islands, which is an example from the last slide of the proposed park in Newark, by providing shady park space. So many communities along the corridor already experience, next slide please, severe flooding and hurricane from Hurricane Ida, and it's highlighted that things are going to get worse. So one of the things, the purchase and sale agreement for the Greenway includes the subterranean rights, and this has led us to have an opportunity to discuss the potential for a combined stormwater overflow storage under the Greenway. And you can see here a plan for that in Newark. Next slide, please. This is a map that shows the overburdened communities that are along the Greenway. Health, safety, and environmental issues here are more severe in these communities. And these are important key equity issues in building a broad-based coalition. Next slide, please. One of the things that we did do was hire a bilingual Spanish community engagement managers. Many of the households have languages other than English is spoken. And part of that was reaching out, and we got St. Lucy's Church, which is part of the Archdiocese of Newark, the largest Hispanic congregation in the area, to take the Greenway on as a mission to fulfill the Pope's call to protect the environment. And this has opened up support from a network of churches and official support from the Archdiocese of Newark's Environmental Task Force. Next slide, please. And I will be very quick, Mike, I promise. So there's lots and many economic benefits, and other people have talked about some of those. I'll really just go through it quick. For this project, obviously, regional connectivity will increase foot traffic for local retail. It attracts new businesses from recreational tourism, and I know Anthony's going to talk more about that. It creates local jobs from planning, construction, design, and maintenance. And with the subterranean rights, we also have the potential to build internet infrastructure under the corridor, providing a service for communities that suffer from a lack of high-speed connectivity, and one that can boost local economy. So the Greenway is not, next slide, please. The Greenway is not secured yet. So we do still need everybody's support. This Sunday, we are co-sponsoring a Bike to Trenton ride. It's about 58 miles, but there are stops along the way where you can join for a shorter ride to show support for the Greenway and urge the governor to get this project over the finish line. And you can join. You just go to the website that's listed here to sign up. You can also go to the EssexHudsonGreenway.org website and sign a letter of support if you haven't done that already. Thank you very much. And I'm going to turn this over now to Anthony.
Thank you, Deborah. Again, I'm Anthony Minnick. I'm Director of Marketing with the State of New Jersey Division of Travel and Tourism. I'm honored to be a presenter at this first summit of its kind, and I want to thank all of you who put this program together. If I'm good in my presentation today, I'll get across 3 points, and I'll get them across very quickly because I know I'm the last one between you and whatever else you have to do today. But if I'm able to allow you to understand a little more about the economic and quality of life benefits of trails and greenways throughout the U.S., the same with economic benefits and quality of life benefits in New Jersey, and then thirdly, how the Division of Travel and Tourism and its partners across the state promote these great assets that we talked about today. So next slide. One more. Okay, so I'm not going to, we don't have too much time, but I'm not going to make the case that trails are important tourism assets to New Jersey because so many people before me in their presentations eloquently, alluded to why New Jersey is a great place, to take advantage of walking and biking and trails. What I do want to focus on in my presentation is that when we are driving down the Parkway and we're driving down the Turnpike and we see those racks with bikes coming through our state, that we do studies that find that those overnight visitors who use our trails tend to stay longer and are likely more upscale visitors with discretionary income. That discretionary income is real important to us to leverage all of the work that you've been doing. Next slide. So what I wanted to start out first with, like I said, was taking a look at what some people across the country are doing. 3 examples. In the Great Allegheny, $18 per day per day is what a trail user spends in that area. $124 a day for overnight trail users, and those over 850,000 users per year through 150 miles through Pennsylvania. That again just goes to show the economic benefit of the use of trails throughout the country. Next slide. And we all know the Appalachian Trail that runs over 2,000 miles through 14 states. Same thing, over 2 million people visit some part of the Appalachian Trail each year. But more importantly, $125 to $168 million is spent annually by these visitors, all right? This spending attracts new businesses, communities along the trail, and increases sales tax revenue in these communities. Extremely important. Next slide. And in Virginia, the ATV trails system showed an economic benefit as well. $18 to $21 million in economic benefit over 5 years. And the big thing, which we want in New Jersey, 390 full-time jobs created, because that's really what it's all about. Not just the quality of life, but selling the actual benefits. So what about New Jersey? Why is this important to us? So in New Jersey, we at the Department of State Division of Travel Tourism, we have a $17.6 million budget, and that budget is used to market all of the great assets throughout the state. And in our 2020 Economic Impact Report, it showed that we welcomed 84.6 million visitors to the Garden State, potential people to use those trails. But what is interesting about that, that's a 2029 impact study that obviously included the time of COVID. Prior to that, in 2019, we had 110 million visitors to the United States. Same thing with the spending in 2020, it was $29 billion. But again, that's COVID related, but prior to that, we're up about 38% more than that to about $44 billion a year. Big thing in 2020, 2019, the same thing, recreation accounted for a good portion of that spend. And at that time in 2020, it was $3.4 billion. And hiking and biking, all of those things, how we use the trail as part of that spending. So when we also have a study, we have a study not only about our economic impact, but we kind of want to know what visitors do when they come to the state. And in our Shiflet study, it said that more than 10% of our overnight visitors reported participation in outdoor activities. Huge, right? 10% of them want to do something when they come into the state. So like I said, when you see these bikes coming on the Parkway, Route 27, the Turnpike, they're actually here to partake in other activities other than the fact that they might be going to the beach. Next slide. And the mayor of Metuchen talked so eloquently about how densely populated our state is. And for us, it's an advantage for tourism because despite that fact, I mean, biking, one of the things that they do because, that you would think it's a hindrance for, the density of population that we have, but we are still actually above the national average, about 3% above the national average in terms of biking. So beyond gambling and celebrations, spas, beachfronts, volunteering, biking is an international average, and that's the next big activity. So we know that biking and trail usage is a big activity for our visitors. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we find, and as you'll see in one of the later slides, is that what we try to do is we're marketers, and what we try to do is to make people aware of all of the work that you're doing, because again, one of the biggest problems for not only the biking, hiking industry in New Jersey, whether it's historic, we need to do a better job of telling the story why people want to come to New Jersey to bike and to hike. And that's what we do. So we develop marketing campaigns. And since 2013, biking and trails has been an integral portion of our marketing campaigns. Next slide. So to give you an idea, to give you a little color of how we try to promote, we obviously promote through our website. Our visitnj.org website gets about 5 million visitors a year. And that photo to the left is actually our website where we talk about the trails and all of the great things to do. If you go into your internet and you put in Google top trails in New Jersey, biking in New Jersey, hopefully you'll see our visitnj.org site comes up as one of the first few that you see. And hopefully in your organization, you're striving to make sure that when you're trying to promote something that you're high up in the ranking, because that's how people look at things. Second items you'll see on there is what we call our banner ads, all these types of things that we use biking and hiking and trails to promote in New Jersey. Next slide, please. Similarly, we do a lot of content stuff on your nj.com, on your different websites. We'll have a little content about biking and outdoors, and then it brings you to articles promoting places where to do that across the state. Next slide, please. Something that, or you can find all of this on the visitnj.org website. Another thing we try to do to promote is promote itineraries. When people come to the state, they might come to do one thing, but we give them an itinerary to do multiple things, and also, encourage them to spend money going to restaurants, things like that. So we try to tie everything together. When bikers go bike riding, there's nice places on the trail, we'll stop to get a bite to eat, stop to get a drink, and we want to encourage that. The second photo is of emails. We send out massive amounts of emails that get exposure to millions of people, and we want to make sure that you see those emails. Next slide, please. Just a little information about our partners, Cape May. What we do is we provide what we call destination marketing organization grants to our local partners around the state. Cape May is one of them. They do a lot of things in terms of outdoors and biking. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. Just giving you an idea of some of their advertising. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Sussex County and one of our other partners, great, beautiful place in the state. They promote their trails and their biking trails. Next slide, please. And you'll see some of the ways they promote their hiking and biking. Next slide, please. And this is one of their, what they call a Sussex Trail Maps. They give out about 50,000 of these a year, and those trails are really funded through the money that we provide to destination marketing organizations. Next slide, please. And again, just to sum up, our number one challenge is New Jersey is making trails. Folks are aware of, the trails that we have. We offer cooperative marketing grants to help build the awareness. And we also want to be an advisory resource for all people, all about New Jersey and what to do, when you come into the state. The last slide, please. And that's me over to the right. Since April, I just started. I brought my first bike ever. I've spent a lot of money, so I know you need a lot of disposable income to be a biker, but I'm enjoying it, and I spend a lot of time on the trails. Thank you for this opportunity, and we'll push it out to Mike again.
Anthony, thank you. What a great umbrella to pull. Anthony, thank you. What a great umbrella to pull that all together. And that is exactly what I was hoping we were going to be able to do with this session. We started out with building that foundation from tools and resources available from DEP. We used an example of Metuchen as a municipality that's really just killing it. Brainy Borough's really got their act together and building on the opportunity Middlesex Greenway brings. Cape May County, building that spine, the perseverance, the patience to build from small projects to actually building networks. And then Deb with the advocacy of bringing that together across the whole state. That is exactly what we were hoping would lead to that capstone of, okay, show us the money. What does that mean for our municipalities and employees, both ratables and jobs, all of it. So if all my presenters would put their cameras back on, we can start off with a couple of questions. I saw one, and Anthony, this is really going to come to you. Some of the Trails folks had said, how can Trails folks, large or small, whole circuit or a little local trail, how can they get their information about their trail advertised on a statewide level?
So first of all, that's a great question. And that's something that we are promoting, and we'll try to help you as much as we can. And we need that content. Content is key for any marketing campaigns or just providing information. So I think you'll have my information in terms of my email address. If you send it directly to my email address, they can put in the chat, anthony.minnick@sos.nj.gov. And I'll get you in touch with the right people to be able to get your items promoted. And also encourage you to take advantage of our grant programs. If you're a nonprofit and you're capable of applying to our grant programs, it's another way that you can help yourself promote the trails as well.
Sure. Now, I'll ask Leslie to build on that question as well, because I know you've done a lot with branding and having some consistent branding across Cape May. How has that been working out for you? And have any of the municipalities been bringing local trails that you might not have otherwise known about, except with assertive outreach on a county level to be incorporated? How's that working out for you?
As far as the open spaces program goes, when municipalities apply for our funding, we require the use of our creative placemaking elements. So we have a little bit of a captive audience there. So we take advantage of holding the purse strings to help implement the creative placemaking program. And then as far as the local trail systems, when we did those the the workshops that I had shown a couple of photos of in the presentation, we asked everyone to put down all the local trails. So in there, if there's trails in local parks, the one map near the end of my presentation with all the green, the lovely green color, those are local facilities as well as county facilities. So we periodically, maybe once or twice in a year or every couple of years, we reach back out to ask municipalities, have you funded any other trails or have you expanded your trail system? And most of the time they come to us for funding, so we know exactly where they are. But, again, just having the perseverance to build piece by piece and hopefully just, get more trails all throughout the county and then be able to take advantage of marketing them as well.
Excellent, thank you. Another question just came in that says, has the state done a study on economic impact and the many bicycle club and nonprofit fundraising bike rides to the state? So I'll start this off with one of the resources, East Coast Greenway, last year unveiled recently published document about economic impact of active transportation. Years back, Charles Brown put together a resource that said it was like having active transportation is like having the Super Bowl in our state every year. But East Coast Greenway quantified that a little more and specifically about trails, and that would be one resource for that. Deb, I'll point this directly to you because I think you're probably as up to date on any of the local resources, especially in some of the background you've been doing about what the impact of Essex Hudson Greenway will be, tying together Newark and Jersey City and that entire urbanized corridor. Any other insights about economic impact you'd share?
Well, some of the sources that have been really helpful have been the local business districts and sort of their assessment of what trails would mean going through their particular towns. So that I think is another place for us to partner and a resource for the economic impacts. But you're right, the East Coast Greenway I think is also a great way to go.
Wonderful. And Mayor Bush, I think you've got some anecdotes about between your transit-oriented development in immediate proximity to Middlesex Greenway. In the last 5 years, what's been going on with development in your downtown near Middlesex Greenway?
It's hard to it's hard to understand, just comprehend just how incredible this has been. But the Whole Foods is like a newer, we have a traditional, our town is from, we've got buildings from the 1800s in our downtown. So, you've got the original downtown, and then you have this connector that goes across the downtown into this new space, which is really is the adjacent to the trail. And that's the Whole Foods development. And, that was an old supermarket years ago on another part of the space. But, obviously having Whole Foods is an incredible anchor. So it's almost like a barbell theory that even though the actual original downtown is about a third of maybe a quarter of a mile away, the fact that that this new aspect of the town has come alive as a direct result of its how close it is to the trail has just really overall improved our entire downtown. Because as people come to one area of the downtown, they visit the other, and we have this sort of destination effect that's just all working together, and that is tremendous. We had 15% first floor vacancies in our downtown in April of 2019, and post-pandemic, remarkably, we have 7% now in April of 21. So it's 2 years, and you can't just attribute that to a trail. Let's be fair. But when it all works together and you've created an effect, you got to believe that at least some of it is attributable.
Absolutely. The trail isn't, it's doing you more favors than it's doing you harm from my experience.
For sure.
Excellent. I see another question that just came in. By foot, the experience is rather like an airport. Show up in a terminal, walk through the indoor tunnel to a gate, show a ticket, board a ship. By car, you wait in a car line up on the ground and drive aboard as directed. Oh, excuse me. I think this was specific to a question about ferry terminals earlier. I think this is a little bit off topic. Sorry, I didn't screen that. I was reading on the fly. From DEP perspective, tools that are available, programs that are available. Elizabeth, anything else that you want to add or elaborate based on what we've just heard from our other presenters? Thank you for finding that button to unmute yourself. That should be if you move your, there we go.
Thanks, Mike. Actually, I think Brandy might be able to better answer this question. She's from our Trails program.
Absolutely. Brandy, are you able to jump on and give us a soundbite about that? I mean, we've seen some great resources through the conference. Tim Brill has been talking about NJMap. Great resources, great online mapping, and other programs that are available. Sorry, I can't tell if Brandy's actually here ready at a moment's notice.
Sorry, I am here. It took me a second. So I believe the question was about economic benefits of trails. Is that correct?
Sure,
Okay,
yes.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, there have been studies over time. I know I had provided Elizabeth with some of these details, which I think is why she tagged me in this. But basically, yeah, there are definitely studies. I know I always reference the Division of Tourism's annual study in looking at the economic benefits of recreation and outdoor activities, because they identify how much money has come in based on tourism, and they actually divided out, as Anthony demonstrated in his presentation, how much is related to outdoor recreation. So that's something I definitely always look at, and I report whenever I go to Trails Council meetings or anything like that. So that's a great resource, and that's money right there, and it's directly tied to outdoor recreation activities. And there's some studies out there. Some of them are a little dated, but there's a lot of good stuff. There's also Headwaters Economics, which is a national nonprofit organization who does research, a non-bipartisan group, and they're always looking at things like that. There's a ton of economic studies on their website. Headwaters Economics, I believe is .org. There's lots of economic, they actually have a whole database of trail benefits on their website. And I know a lot of it is tailored towards the economic side of it, because sometimes you kind of have to speak about money to get people's attention. So, you know, looking at the economic benefits of trails definitely gets the attention of all the right people.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that anecdote. Now, one other thing I want to make sure everybody knows about, this has come up a couple of times in previous sessions, and I jokingly asked John Boyle as he was talking about Elephant Swamp Trail down in Elk Township. I said, John, would you give us a private tour? Could we take a look? And yes, there are several mobile workshops that are coming up. They're all available on Trails Action, NJ Trails Action. That website has several mobile workshops. I know if the weather holds, we're looking at Henry Hudson Trail tomorrow, and then Elephant Swamp Trail down in Elk on Saturday. And NJDAP, oh my goodness, you guys have a whole list of walks. I think there might be a couple of rides as well. There's more than I could possibly mention right this minute, but there's a lot more still coming up. And speaking of that, we're almost out of time, but before we do, I want to thank everyone. This has been, for me, this has been so much fun. And this is talking with friends, old friends, new friends, about something near and dear to many of us. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. These sessions were all recorded, okay? So please know that that will be available post-summit at njtrailsaction.org. That's where you'll find all the information about the walks and the rides. If we didn't get to everybody, I think we got to most of the questions, but please see the handouts on the session page of the Summit website for information about how to follow up directly with panelists. I know I at least recommended one person reach out to you, Leslie. Watch out, you're gonna have questions about how getting trails along power lines. When this session ends, know that there's still a couple of great things coming up. We're going to have a closing keynote at 3:30, and after at 5:30. I'd call it a BYOB, whether it's a bike or a ball or a beverage, but there's going to be a session about how to keep in touch, how to maintain this momentum, and we're going to keep things going. And it's really been a privilege to help MC or moderate this last session before the closing keynote. And please don't forget to join the New Jersey Trails Action Network. Trails Action Network. We also, sure, it's the second day of fall, but we can still get tan. I think that's their acronym, right? Trails Action Network. So with that, I want to say thank you. Thank you for sticking with us. I hope you had as much fun as I did throughout this session. Thanks, everybody.